Okay. Hey everybody, it is Wind Down Wednesday. Wind Down Wednesday
Cheers.
with the Near Disney Real Estate Dream Team. We're so excited. Today is December 28th, and as we promised, we're going to be showing up every week to answer any questions that you might have on real estate, us giving you some updates, and have a little bit of wine or Coke or whatever it is, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we want to get right to it because I know there's a lot of topics that my team wants to talk about this week. One of which is, our heart is really going out to the people in the Buffalo, New York area, Buffalo, New York.
Yeah.
We have done this before many years ago. I want to say 1989, because I remember there being a blizzard there at that point. Because we're starting to get a lot more people on our website saying, hey, I want to look at Florida. It's becoming more difficult to live up north with the ice and snow and everything like that. And
Right.
so, what we are offering the Stream Team is we're going to rebate $1,000 on a closing statement for people in that area if they want to start scheduling a flight to Central Florida or Florida by the end of March. And as long as it closes by July, because we want to give time, because we know there's a lot of people that have children that they want to get through the school system.
Mhm.
But that $1,000 rebate will be on an Alta if you work with any of my Realtor Dream Teams. So anyway, I'd like you guys to introduce yourself as we start bringing up topics. Because I think I want to make sure everybody knows too. You have nicknames for me as well. But the first person that I think we want to talk to is Cinderella. So Virginia.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Virginia Carlson, or Cinderella, as I am known here on Near Disney YouTube. Yeah. So today I wanted to talk to everyone about selling your home. Like, when you think about, how do I price the house? How do I talk to a realtor? What do we consider when we are coming up with this price that is going to work for us? And we have compiled 8 influential factors that I think are really important to consider when talking to your realtor, talking to us about how much should the house go on the market for. So we will get right into that, because basically your home is based on what willing buyers in the market are willing to pay for it at that time. So we want to think about the neighborhood comps, and that's sales of similar homes in the area that have sold recently, and we rely on this to estimate your home value. We also want to think about location, and in location we think of kind of 3 major things, like, are you close to schools? What employment opportunities are nearby? Is it the proximity to shopping and entertainment and those kind of things? And then we, of course, want to think about your home size. And not only is it the square footage of your house, but the usable space. Things that people really, they think of first and foremost. How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? What is the common space like? How big is the kitchen, the garage, etc.? We also want to consider the age and condition of your home. Buyers will typically pay top dollar for, a brand new home, everything that's, nothing needs fixing. And that's why you have an inspection, to look at repairs. And then you can also consider, well, we're going to price it this way because maybe these things need to have a little bit of work done on them. We want to look at upgrades and updates, which add value, especially in older homes with outdated features. If things have been updated, that's a really nice selling point that buyers walk in and think, wow, it's already been done. I don't have to think about it. You want to think about the local market, look at the number of properties for sale in your market, and look at whether it's a buyer's or a seller's market. And then you can definitely price accordingly to that. Number 7, we want to look at economic indicators. Employment and wage growth. Are people able to purchase in the area? Has employment gone down in your area, and so it's a little bit more difficult for people to purchase a home? So you kind of want to take that into effect. And also interest rates. As they increase, fewer people may be able to afford a home, and this impacts how much you can sell your home for. So these are definitely 8 key things that we would want to talk with you about and consider when pricing your home. And obviously, for more information, you can call any of us, and we'd love to talk to you about it.
That sounds great. So everybody, there's Virginia's telephone number right there, 407-487-9960. Appreciate you putting that together because a lot of times when people are starting to think about selling their house, they wait a little bit too long. And then all of a sudden, everything just rushes up on everybody, right? And
Yeah.
so, our dream team has created a book that we are more than happy to send you guys, probably electronically, but it's the Insider Home Selling Tips. And so, obviously, pricing your property right is critical.
Yeah.
And then the next steps, and believe me, I think there's 100, well, there's about 100 pages in this book, and it breaks it down. It makes it very, edible, I guess, delicious way in order for you to get your house up on the market. But you're going to need a lot of help out there, you guys. It can be overwhelming, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's been overwhelming too, just because the market shifted so much over the past few months. Really understanding and having an honest conversation now with sellers, I think, is a big thing. If you are wanting to sell your home, is like, hey, we're not in the same type of market we were in during the pandemic where you were seeing higher prices and bidding wars and things like that. So I think having this tool to help you understand like why we're helping you price your home the way that we're helping you price it is
Yeah.
is
Absolutely.
ideal.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's very good. And speaking of pricing, Elijah, you blew me away with some information the other day. I'm going to try. I'm not as savvy as a lot of my team members in making sure the right boxes are in the right places with the flyers and information that they sent. But everybody, Elijah, you want to put your hand up and say hello?
Hi there, Elijah with Florida in Motion Realty, part of the dream team here. Kim, the fairy godmother of real estate, calls me the prince of real estate sometimes, because I think that every one of those Disney movies that had a happily ever after, a prince was involved in some way.
That's right. That's right. He's our prince. That's right. That's right.
But but yeah, you make a good point leading up there. I wanted to bring attention to some of the kind of year-end roundup articles that I was looking at with some like business journals and real estate resources that want to kind of give a market update slash affordability check-in for people who are considering Florida or considering especially Central Florida. The Orlando Business Journal put out an article about how Orlando ranks among the most competitive rental markets, and it turns out it's pretty darn competitive. They got us at number 3, behind Miami-Dade County and Grand Rapids, Michigan. So yeah, we are pretty competitive. And when I looked at the figures that they had here, like the average rental for a home in this market was, according to Orlando Biz, 1700, and that seemed like a lot to be starting. But then I checked that against Rent Cafe, the place that conducted this study as well. They had the average rent figure at 1937 for an average apartment size of 962 square feet.
So that's a one bedroom. You might be able to squish
Yeah.
2 bedrooms in there, but let's figure a one bedroom in Central Florida. Pretty much your starting price point is 1937 a month. And because there's so few rentals in Central Florida too, they a lot of times are asking for first, last, and a security deposit. I mean, there's big demands
And
because there's so little inventory, right?
absolutely, they can want all of that, and they can want you to show that you make 3 times the rent, and they can want a pet deposit for like each pet that can sometimes be non-refundable for if you want to bring your
If they allow a pet.
if
If
your
they
And
allow.
companion
restrictions
into
with
your,
it,
if they
right?
even allow
Size
one. And
and
that,
breed.
yeah,
Say that again.
And restrictions with that, right? Size
Mhm.
and breed.
Yeah, breed restrictions.
yeah,
Yes.
some people, like I'm a cat person, and it's actually rougher and tougher for people trying to rent with cats. And so what does that look like exactly when we talk about Orlando being so much higher than the average? Well, like they looked at a certain figures like how many competing renters are trying to bid for, and when an apartment comes open, the average is like 14. In Orlando was seeing like 21 prospective renters. And then like lease renewal rate, national average, like kind of 62% of people renewing their lease, but here in Central Florida, Orlando, we're getting like over 72%. And that's just how also as long how long they're staying vacant, so how long are they taking to fill. We're just like over half a week fewer than it takes the national average of like 32 days. So like people see something good and they snatch it, and that just kind of makes it a little bit more competitive and a little bit more difficult to get your dream place to settle in, because we saw a lot of people found Florida to be a very attractive lifestyle and living space like during the pandemic and after, and suddenly we're starting to get a little bit full. And that's when we like to start to have a conversation with you about whether it's best to even rent when it's looking like this, when you're getting into that like almost $2,000 a month for an average, or if you want to get with us to talk about whether we have lenders or we have communities or stuff that can be, actually makes more sense for you to try to buy and be a home owner rather than paying just the rent, which like as Chelsea likes to say, if it's when you're paying rent, it's all interest.
Yep. It's
It's all interest. That's right.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I'm working on my predictions for 2023, and my big one that's coming out is that when Brightline, the high-speed rail, comes from Miami, Palm Beach, Aventura, when they're coming up to Orlando, which is going to be in May of 2023, the people in Miami can drop $1 million, a lot of them, with a bat of the eye, and I can just see a lot of them saying, oh, I'm going to buy a second home up here, or, oh, I'm going to find a rental. And they may not use it very much. And so if a homeowner has a rental and they know that somebody can even prepay a year in advance, or is not going to use it very much, but because the people that are very wealthy that can come and say, I want to be able to hang my clothes here so that when I go to Disney or Universal, or if I want to go to the beaches in this area, I think a wave of buyers are coming, a wave of renters are coming.
Mm.
So those of you, that's one of the questions we just asked. How many of you are out there renting? Please get a hold of my team, and at least start asking them questions about, okay, I am paying $2,600 a month in rent. What does that equate into
Mhm.
purchasing something? And then let them work numbers for you, because there's so many things, buying an interest rate down, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, I think Miranda, you wanted to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Miranda. Kim affectionately calls me Alice, here with the Near Disney Dream Team. That being said, that's what we're looking at now, is how are these interest rates affecting us here in Orlando? And the answer is actually quite simple. It's actually kind of bringing our home prices down a bit. We've seen a slip somewhere between 3 and 5% just even from the summer sales. So Orlando recently creeped up to about a $505,000 average sales price about July, and just since the swift recorrection of the market and that shifting, that's crept back down to about 475. So in a very, very short span, we've seen a very quick turnaround on what these homes look like. Now that doesn't mean that you're going to go out tomorrow and make an offer on a home for $50,000-$60,000 less right off the bat. It just means that most sellers are getting about a 95% listing price from what their current sales or sales price to what their current listing price is. So don't take that as I'm going to go in and offer half or 75% of whatever they have it listed for, and we can continue negotiating from there. However, I'll caveat that and say it's even went down to the buyers. I'm sorry, the sellers. So with the sellers, we're used to this crazy market where we've had lots of offers. Chelsea kind of touched on bidding wars a little earlier. Now we're not seeing near as many offers, or we're seeing a few more longer days on market before we're getting offers. They're still very close to list price, if not the exact listing price. And I know that the interest rates have kind of scared people off from being able to utilize the full potential of their purchase power whenever they go to actually go and look for homes. So the best thing that we can advise is start looking where you're comfortable and don't look at things that are way outside of that price range. So you really want to listen to your realtor that you're working with, preferably us, so that way you can get the best advisement there, because the last thing we want to do is walk you through a home that you absolutely fall in love with, and then we don't have a way to afford that for you.
Right.
And then no other home is ever going to compare to that specific home that you saw because it was outside of that price range. So stay within your range, work with your lenders. We've got some really awesome lender partners that have some great programs. We've got adjustable mortgage rates. So ARMs, if you're familiar with those terminologies, and that will allow for a cheaper interest rate up front. Then you always have that ability to go back and refinance. We can also kind of work our magic, so to speak, and talking with the listing agents and the sellers about potentially some concessions there back to the buyers and buying down those rates. So if that's something that you're not as familiar with, it seems to be foreign terminology, you definitely want to start having conversations with us about that now, so that way we can help put that power back in your hands as the buyer. I think going into 2023, we're going to see another slide in those home prices, just because these rates are 7 or 8% in the national average. Like I said, our lender partners don't have them near as high. We've got solutions for you. So seriously, you need to call us. You need to get in with us and get with our lender partners. But I think we're going to continue seeing these prices kind of slowly trickle down. It's not going to be what it was before. But kind of to Elijah's point, though, with rentals, we saw a huge surge of people come in from out of state up north. They knew winter was coming, or they were relocating for jobs. I believe on average we were seeing about 100 people move into Orlando per day. For a very long time. And there's only so much room within Orlando. So now everybody's having to expand outside of Orlando. So you're going to see more videos from us between like St. Cloud or Clermont, maybe even Minneola, and expanding. And that's forcing people outside of the conventional Central Florida bubble, so to speak. So you'll want to pay close attention to those areas because they are up and coming. And with renters, there's only so much area, right? But we saw a lot of these buyers say, yeah, I don't want to get in on these bidding wars. I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to stay renting. And what they've done is kind of like Elijah and Chelsea touched on earlier, is they've just been throwing their money away this entire time. And in turn, they took that rental availability, that rental inventory for those that truly were needing to rent. And that was their only way. So if you are paying those higher rental prices, which we don't foresee stopping in the near future at all, then you definitely want to have conversations with us now so we can get those solutions presented to you and present possibly more solutions to you now rather than waiting later on down the road.
That's right. That's right. So today we were talking with some folks, and I think the interest rate, the way that we were able to work it out, and of course that depends every other day, but it was closer to the fives, in the 5% range. But I think you're right. If people wait and the prices drop down a little bit, but they're still at 8%, then that really hasn't helped them any, right? So they need to get with my dream team. Everybody get with my dream team, figure out how to get that interest rate bought down so that it's reasonable, and then go ahead and find that perfect glass slipper fit, because you don't want to be renting, or you don't necessarily maybe sometimes want to stay in that house where in a couple of years the new roof is going to be needed or whatever it is. And for those of you that don't know, typically in Florida, if your roof is about 10 years old, now this is on a typical roof, not one of these barrel tile roofs, but it's got to be less than 10 years old, because otherwise an agent's going to come in and say, my people can't get insurance on the house. And so if they can't get insurance on the house, they can't buy your house. And so that's either going to be negotiated at closing where you're taking less, or, so it's going to be addressed at some point, right? So,
Yeah.
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 But that's very good information, Miranda. And I'm so glad you mentioned St. Cloud, because I know that Chelsea did a video on St. Cloud, and we're going to be showcasing, on Fridays at 1:30. We do a couple of shows each week, but we're doing a show on Walt Disney's true legacy. And it's not just on theme parks. We have a theory that when Walt was speaking words, back 100 years ago, because they're celebrating the 100th anniversary of Walt Disney Company starting 2023, when he was speaking the words of Epcot Center, we knew that really his dream of all this land that he was buying, it wasn't just all for theme parks. He was thinking about families. He was thinking about people moving to Central Florida. He was taking a lot of swampland and he was filling it in and putting parks. But we also are seeing personalities of towns that are somewhat parallel with the different lands that are in the Magic Kingdom. So we've already talked about Main Street being very much like Celebration Florida. We've talked about Tomorrowland being very much like Lake Nona. And when you think about Frontierland, something that comes to mind is definitely St. Cloud. So Chelsea, why don't you take that away and tell us about St. Cloud?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to agree with you. As you'll see in the video on this Friday, St. Cloud's definitely very similar to Frontierland. You've got way more land out here that's available to buy than you would find in other parts of Central Florida. You do see a lot of ranchers and farmers out here still. A lot of people on their pieces of land that they have. There's a spot out here called the Manor. There's a lot of people that you'll find that have goats on their property and mini cows and horses. So this is definitely Frontierland. And I wanted to touch on so this is my area, guys. St. Cloud is actually where I live. But I just wanted to touch on the 34769 zip code of St. Cloud, which is like the heart of St. Cloud, the downtown area, the state streets. There are other zip codes a little bit further out that encompass Harmony and things like that. But I wanted to touch on 34769 and just talk a little bit more about the market here. So this is from List Report. This is a cool little thing I could come up with just to touch on some of the activity that's happening. So as you can tell, there's not a whole lot coming on the market quickly. So inventory is still pretty low for the most part out here. So it definitely makes it a little bit more of a seller's market. As you can see, there's been 2 new listings in the past 5 days. That's not a whole lot. And then the median home price is about $355,000, which you're seeing. And then there's 77 active listings, and it's about 55 days on the market, which is average. So like we were talking about earlier, the market's changed a little bit. We're seeing that houses are staying on the market a little bit more, which we're coming into more of a balanced market, which is normal, guys. So don't freak out if you see that the days on market are a little bit longer than what you were seeing a couple months ago or a year and a half ago or whatever it may be. Those quick flying homes are not happening as much anymore. So like I said, we're kind of teetering back and forth out here in the area between a seller's and a buyer market, which makes it to where there's a little more wiggle room for a buyer when we come in, kind of like Miranda was talking about, where we may be able to come down a little bit to help you with an offer from the current list prices. Not a whole lot, but a little bit to possibly help you in the long run. I also wanted to touch on what Elijah was talking about as far as rent prices go. Out here in St. Cloud right now, according to Altos, which is an awesome market research platform that I use, the median rent price is a little over $2,000. So that might get you a little more square footage out here as opposed to directly in downtown Orlando. As you know, in the heart of downtown Orlando, you're going to get a little smaller space for that price range because it's property that's you're buying where you're staying. Out here, you'll probably get a little more square footage, a couple more bedrooms, a couple more bathrooms for that $2,000, but that's still a lot. And I feel like we could get you into a home. Again, you're paying 100% interest on rent. Mm-hmm. So if we could get you into a home with a similar price point, we could probably get you into something that would be more long-term and you wouldn't have to keep moving every year. You would own it. And I think that's huge, is you get to own where you're at and not have to worry about somebody kicking you out or worried about there not being a rent cap here in the state of Florida and it going up consistently every year. So talk to us. Let us know. Come find me if you want to come out here. Like I said, St. Cloud, you get that hometown community feel. We've got brick-lined streets, and there's a monthly market every month. They do all kinds of stuff in downtown St. Cloud all the time. Harmony, which isn't super far from here, they do stuff in their square every month. They've got wine walks, and there's just so much going on out here. And it is an opportunity to find some land too.
Yes. That's what I was getting ready to say. I noticed that you get quite a bit more land
Mhm.
out there, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And it's not that difficult. What do the turnpike, how long do you think, what would you say, how many minutes to get to downtown Orlando? How many minutes to get to Disney?
To downtown Orlando, it could be from anywhere to 25 to 30 minutes. It's a jump on the turnpike to I-4 and straight down I-4. Really cool thing about from the turnpike to I-4 is the express lanes. You have those now, so it's even faster. You do pay a toll for it, but we've talked about that before. It's a small price to pay to get somewhere a little bit faster here in Orlando. And then to Disney, it's about the same. It's about 30 to 35 minutes to get to Magic Kingdom from where right here in the heart of St. Cloud. And then the airport is actually probably a little bit closer, about if you're lucky, 15 minutes, but about 20 minutes to get to the airport. And that's a turnpike to 417. We'll get you right there.
Yeah.
Very good. Great information. So, another book that I've always recommended, and I also wanted to share, it's lovely. I'm seeing some comments with hearts and stuff. So thank you guys for watching. We really are doing this show wanting to give as much information as we can out to folks, but we want to know if you have any questions. One thing in particular, I would encourage you, maybe some of your high school students that are out there, maybe have them sit and watch this show with us every week, because they don't teach this kind of stuff in high school. And I think if they can get ahead of it and know, like, there's a couple of things that I would like to share. It's the one time in your life where the bank is going to look to you and say, we're going to let you leverage their money. So many people think, oh gosh, I just bought a $500,000 house. No, you did, but you may have come up with 3% or 5%, maybe 20%, maybe you did put $100,000, but where did that extra $400,000 come from? It's the one time in your life that you have the ability to leverage other people's money. I have acrylic nails. These are other people's nails, but there's other people's money, right? And so if you are surrounded by these brilliant realtors, my dream team, and you can talk to them about, here's my goals, or, if you wanted to start when you were younger and say, hey, I'm good with going into some place and I want to fix it up a bit, and then I want to sell it, and then I'm going to go in and fix it up and I'm going to sell it, or I'm going to buy a couple of different places. That's how people become millionaires as they get older. And so please, if you have any high school students, or if you have any middle school students that can, kind of absorb this, we want to encourage you, because there's no question that we don't want to answer. But if you haven't had a chance, read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think it's a big one.
Kim, just this week, I've seen two of my own personal Facebook friends gift their children, and we're talking late elementary, middle school age children, homes for the holidays. And that was really their investment gift. They didn't spend a whole lot. They found a fixer-upper. They're going to take their time with it, but they know that the growth in that property's equity is going to grow. So by the time that they get to graduate high school or even graduate college, it could be where they land for college for a little while, and then they take renters on as buddies that are going to be staying with them through college, or they decide that they want to sell it, and then that goes towards their next home or their college tuition, or maybe becomes their first house. Maybe they just grow that equity and continue to keep it growing. But they're thinking about their children's generational wealth, which just speaks volumes. And what more can we ask of our parents and give to our kids if we're not trying to, like you said, educate them, but also gift them with something more tangible? And it just gave me goosebumps seeing that, because they're thinking ahead for their futures and trying to make sure that they're set up in places where their parents didn't have them set up before. So yeah, it's never too early to start those conversations.
Yeah.
I love that.
Wow.
And when we were my dream team was talking about, we also went out to Minneola because we have been asked by some people to go out into the Lake County area. We've done a video on Mount Dora. Absolutely love Mount Dora. Chelsea's done one on Clermont. We're going to be bringing that one out and about. But there was this gem of Minneola. And what I would share with some folks is maybe they live in Dr. Phillips, maybe they live in Orlando, Windermere, what have you. But if you want to start investing in some things, Minneola has super low taxes. Their mayor is not raising taxes. He's actually rolling taxes back. And so when you talk to my dream team and you say, okay, I've now got cash. Okay, let's say that. I've got cash and I'm going to buy a $500,000 house. Well, yes, but you still have taxes. You still have an HOA if that applies, right? And so if the tax is on $500,000, maybe $7,500 a year in Osceola County, that would be about what that would be. If it was in Orange County, a $500,000 house is going to be about $10,000 a year. But in Minneola, you guys, it's like $2,500 a year. So if you're looking for an investment, a property, so that your taxes are going to be low, and I'm seeing all this infrastructure too. I was blown away. I went out, I have a little bit of a cold because we were out. So it's so exciting. But there's something called the Coast to Coast Trail, and it's going to be a bike trail. Actually, it's existing now. 200 miles of it is done, and there's an additional 50 miles that's almost done. There's this beautiful farm that's in the middle of it, but it's Meet Me in the Middle Plaza. It's got a park. And you just start seeing how the coasts are connecting. So you could go from, the Gulf Coast over to the Atlantic. You'd be riding a bike or have an electric bike, 250 miles, that type of thing. But we're also seeing these extensions now. So if you're in Clermont, which you'll learn more about, they have got 3 legs that will cut the ride down between Clermont and Disney for the Disney cast members to half the time.
Wow.
Half the time. And so I took my big blue bus, I call it my big blue bus, my big car, and we drove it. And my husband was out there and we were filming, and we're like, this is reality. This thing's coming.
Wow.
And when it comes, those houses are going to be worth so much more, so much more. So it's exciting time in Central Florida. And for those of you that are up north and it's cold and you're saying, is it time? Yes, yes, yes. It's time. Talk to us. Start planning, please. Even if it means new construction and you're saying it'll be a year or 2 years, you got to talk to us now because there's people on wait list.
Yeah.
And we gotta help you. And there goes my camera, but that
No.
Why don't we go ahead and start saying our goodbyes unless anybody else has something to add?
Yeah,
No,
I'll
I
say,
think that's it.
and when I was in middle school, I was pretty happy to get a bike. So I mean, Miranda's saying people get in the house. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
the future.
yeah, and it's not
The
anything
galaxy brain.
extravagant. It's just like a $25,000 property out of state or whatnot. They're going to work on it and fix it up, and
Cool.
eventually in a couple of years, it's going to have some equity built up to it, and
Oh yeah,
it's a gift that keeps on giving.
Yes.
Awesome.
super.
Awesome.
Yeah, I love that.
Wonderful. Well, please stay tuned. We're here every Wednesday at 7 o'clock for Wind Down Wednesdays with really the best realtors in Central Florida. You've got their telephone numbers. Please give them a call. Oh, it's telling me to close down the show, I guess. My camera.
First we turn off the lights, then we start playing the music,
Lights out, Kim. Come on.
Yeah.
and then the cook comes.
That's right. That's right.
The bar's closing time. It says
Yeah.
Not
enough.
That's right. So anyway, God bless everybody. And once again, if you have any questions, get a hold of my team and we will see you next week.
Yeah, next year.
Bye.
Happy New Year's, everybody.
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yes. Happy New Year. Bye, guys.
Bye.